A billionaire heiress had everything money could buy, but none of it could tell her who truly loved her. Every man who smiled at her seemed to be looking past her face and straight into her father's fortune. Tired of being admired for her name instead of her heart, she made a shocking decision. She disguised herself as a homeless beggar and walked into the streets to find the truth. What she found nearly broke her. People mocked her. Shop owners chased her away. Strangers stepped around her like she was nothing. The sale and how in her world that betrayed her. When she wore diamonds, treated her like dirt when she wore torn clothes. For the first time, she saw how cruel people could be when they believed someone had nothing to offer. Then, just when she was ready to give up, a poor street food seller did what no one else would do. He gave her a free meal. No judgment, no disgust, no hidden motive. Just warm food, a kind smile, and a gentle voice that made her feel human again. Day after day, she returned to his stall. Their friendship grew quietly in the middle of the busy market, surrounded by gossip, laughter, and people who thought the poor food seller had fallen in love with a homeless woman. Some admired them. Others mocked them, but he never cared what anyone said. Then one day, a luxury Rolls-Royce pulled into the market. The homeless woman stepped out dressed like royalty, and when the crowd learned she was not a beggar, but a billionaire heiress in disguise, everyone froze, especially the man who had loved her when he thought she had nothing. Expensive dresses swirled across polished marble floors, while wealthy businessmen laughed over glasses of champagne. At the center of it all stood Sophia Johnson. She was 24 years old, beautiful, intelligent, and the only daughter of billionaire entrepreneur Richard Johnson. Her long dark hair flowed over her shoulders, and her elegant blue gown had been specially designed by one of the world's most famous fashion houses. To everyone around her, Sophia appeared to have the perfect life. She lived in a mansion larger than most hotels. She traveled on private jets. She owned luxury cars before most people her age owned bicycles. She could buy anything she wanted without checking the price. Yet, as she stood among hundreds of guests celebrating her father's latest business success, she felt completely alone. Sophia forced a smile as another young man approached her. "Miss Johnson," he said, flashing perfectly white teeth, "you look stunning tonight." "Thank you," Sophia replied politely. The man introduced himself as Charles, the son of a wealthy investor. For the next 20 minutes, he talked non-stop. Not about her. Not about her interests. Not about her dreams. Instead, he asked questions about her father's company. How much was it worth? How many international offices did it have? Was her father planning any new investments? Sophia answered politely at first, but the familiar disappointment slowly returned. Eventually, Charles smiled. "I think you and I would make a wonderful couple." Sophia looked at him. "You do?" "Absolutely. What do you know about me?" she asked. The question caught him off guard. "Well, what are my favorite books?" He hesitated. "I don't know. What hobbies do I enjoy?" Another pause. "I've never asked. What is my biggest dream?" Charles shifted uncomfortably. Sophia already knew the answer. He didn't know. He had spent nearly half an hour talking to her, and still knew nothing about who she truly was. His interest wasn't in Sophia. It was in the Johnson fortune, the same way it always was. Sophia excused herself and walked toward the balcony overlooking the city. Cool night air brushed against her face. Below, countless lights illuminated the skyline. It should have been beautiful. Instead, she felt tears gathering in her eyes. A voice interrupted her thoughts. "There you are." Sophia turned to see her mother approaching. Evelyn Johnson was a graceful woman whose kindness had always balanced her husband's fierce business instincts. Unlike many wealthy people, Evelyn never forgot where she came from. She had grown up poor and understood things money could never buy. Her eyes immediately noticed Sophia's sadness. "What happened?" Evelyn asked gently. Sophia looked away. "Nothing. It doesn't look like nothing." Sophia sighed. "It's always the same, Mom." Evelyn stepped closer. "What is?" "The men." Understanding filled her mother's eyes. Sophia laughed bitterly. "They all pretend to care about me." Her voice trembled. "But they don't." Evelyn remained silent. "They see the mansion. They see Dad's company. They see the money." Sophia wiped away a tear. "Nobody sees me." Her mother wrapped an arm around her shoulders. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The sounds of music and laughter drifted from inside the ballroom. Finally, Sophia broke the silence. Do you know what hurts the most? What? I don't even know if true love exists for someone like me. Evelyn frowned. Of course it exists. Then where is it? Sophia gestured toward the party. Every man who approaches me sees dollar signs. Her voice cracked. How am I supposed to know who actually loves me? The question hung in the air. Evelyn thought carefully before speaking. Maybe you're looking in the wrong place. Sophia stared at her. What do you mean? Instead of answering immediately, Evelyn smiled slightly. Come with me. Curious, Sophia followed her mother inside the mansion. They walked through long hallways decorated with priceless artwork before reaching Evelyn's private sitting room. The room felt warmer and more personal than the rest of the mansion. Family photographs covered the walls. Pictures of birthdays, vacations, simple moments shared together. Evelyn sat down and motioned for Sophia to join her. I've never told you the full story of how your father and I met. Sophia blinked. You haven't? Evelyn shook her head. No. Sophia leaned forward. I thought you met at university. We did, but there's more to the story. A nostalgic smile appeared on Evelyn's face. When I met your father, he wasn't rich. Sophia's eyes widened. What? He had ambition. He had determination. But he didn't have money. Evelyn chuckled softly. In fact, there were days when he struggled to pay for lunch. Sophia had never heard this before. Her father was one of the richest men in the country. Imagining him poor seemed impossible. I came from a poor family too, Evelyn continued. We had very little, so, when your father and I met, neither of us had anything to offer except our hearts. Sophia listened carefully. He loved me before the wealth, and I loved him before the success. Evelyn squeezed her daughter's hand. That is why our marriage survived everything. Sophia lowered her gaze. I wish I could experience that. You can. Sophia looked up. How? Evelyn became thoughtful. Then she said something completely unexpected. Hide your wealth. What? Hide it? Sophia stared at her mother in disbelief. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. Mom, I'm a billionaire heiress. Exactly. Evelyn nodded. And that title prevents people from seeing the real you. Sophia tried to process what she was hearing. You want me to pretend I'm poor? Not pretend. Experience life outside your privilege. The idea sounded absurd. Yet something about it fascinated her. Evelyn continued. If people don't know who you are, they'll show you their true character. Sophia considered the possibility. For years she had struggled to separate genuine affection from greed. Maybe her mother was right. Maybe the answer wasn't finding a different type of wealthy man. Maybe it was removing wealth from the equation entirely. But the plan still sounded impossible. What would I even do? Sophia asked. Evelyn smiled. Spend time among ordinary people. Live simply. Observe. Learn. And if you meet someone kind, you'll know that kindness has nothing to do with your father's bank account. Sophia sat quietly. The more she thought about it, the more the idea appealed to her. For the first time in years, she felt a spark of hope, a way to discover the truth, not only about other people, but about herself. The following week brought another painful reminder of her problem. Sophia had been dating a handsome businessman named Victor for nearly 3 months. At first, he seemed different. He was charming, confident, attentive. For a brief moment, Sophia thought she had finally found someone genuine. Then reality shattered the illusion. They sat together at an expensive restaurant overlooking the ocean. Halfway through dinner, Victor suddenly became excited. I have an incredible business opportunity, he said. Sophia immediately felt uneasy. Oh, your father would love it. There it was again. Not Sophia, her father. Victor spent the next hour discussing investments, partnerships, and potential profits. Every sentence revolved around gaining access to Richard Johnson. By the end of the evening, Sophia understood the truth. Victor wasn't building a relationship. He was pursuing a business connection. The next morning she ended things. Victor barely seemed heartbroken. Instead, he appeared disappointed about losing access to her family. That reaction hurt more than the breakup itself. When Sophia returned home, she found her mother reading in the garden. Evelyn looked up immediately. Another one? Sophia nodded sadly. Another one. Another disappointment. Another reminder that wealth attracted the wrong people. Another man who loved opportunity more than he loved her. Sophia sat beside her mother. For several minutes they listened to birds singing among the flowers. Then Sophia finally spoke. "I want to do it." Evelyn lowered her book. "Do what?" "Your plan." A smile spread across her mother's face. "Are you sure?" Sophia nodded. Yes. For the first time, determination burned in her eyes. "I want to know who people really are. I want to know if true love exists. And if it does, I want someone to love Sophia, not the Johnson fortune, not the mansion, not the luxury cars. Just Sophia." Her mother squeezed her hand proudly. "I think that's the wisest decision you've ever made." Over the next few days, they prepared carefully. Old clothes were purchased, simple disguises were planned. Sophia would leave behind designer dresses, expensive jewelry, and luxury accessories. She would become someone nobody recognized, someone ordinary, someone invisible. As the preparations continued, excitement mixed with fear. What would life be like without wealth? Would people treat her differently? Would she discover kindness or cruelty? Would she find the love she had spent years searching for? She didn't know, but she was ready to find out. Standing in front of her bedroom mirror on the night before her journey began, Sophia looked around her luxurious room. Everything she could ever want surrounded her. Yet, none of it had given her happiness. None of it had brought her true love. Tomorrow, she would step into a completely different world. A world where nobody knew her name. A world where her father's fortune meant nothing. A world that would change her life forever. As she turned off the lights and climbed into bed, Sophia whispered a quiet prayer. "Please let me find someone who loves me for me." Outside her window, the city lights sparkled in the darkness, and somewhere beyond those lights, destiny was already preparing to bring a humble street food seller into her life. But Sophia had no idea that the greatest journey of her life was about to begin. The next morning, Sophia Johnson stood in front of a mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back at her. Gone were the designer dresses, gone were the expensive handbags, gone were the sparkling jewelry pieces worth more than most people's homes. Instead, she wore a faded, oversized shirt with several tears along the sleeves. Her trousers were old and stained. Her beautiful hair was hidden beneath a worn scarf, and a little dirt had been carefully applied to her face and hands. For the first time in her life, she looked poor. Very poor. Sophia turned slowly and examined herself from every angle. "If I didn't know it was you, I wouldn't recognize you either," her mother said from behind her. Sophia looked over her shoulder. Evelyn smiled softly. "You look completely different." Sophia nervously adjusted her scarf. "I still can't believe I'm doing this. Are you having second thoughts?" Sophia thought for a moment. A few weeks ago, the idea would have seemed ridiculous. Now it felt necessary. "No," she replied. "I need to do this." Her mother walked over and squeezed her shoulder. "Just remember one thing." "What?" "Keep your heart open." Sophia nodded. A few minutes later, she left the mansion through a side entrance. No chauffeurs, no security guards, no luxury cars. She carried only a small bag containing a bottle of water and a few personal items. The plan was simple. She would spend her days among ordinary people and return home secretly at night. Nobody outside her family would know who she really was. As she walked toward the city center, excitement filled her chest. She felt like she was embarking on an adventure. Everything seemed new, interesting, mysterious. For once, nobody looked at her and saw a billionaire's daughter. She was invisible, and strangely enough, she liked it. First, the city market was already buzzing with activity when she arrived. Hundreds of traders filled the area. Some sold fruits, others sold clothes. Food vendors prepared meals while customers bargained loudly. The air was filled with voices, laughter, music, and the smell of cooking food. Sophia had driven past places like this countless times, but she had never actually walked through one, never truly experienced it. She slowly wandered between the stalls, observing everything around her. A woman selling tomatoes shouted prices to customers. A young boy pushed a wheelbarrow through the crowd. Several traders laughed together while arranging their merchandise. For a brief moment, Sophia felt excited. This world was completely different from hers, felt alive, real. Then reality struck. As she approached a fruit stand, the owner glanced at her dirty clothes and immediately frowned. "What do you want?" he asked sharply. Sophia was surprised by his tone. Nothing. Then keep moving. The man waved his hand dismissively. Don't stand near my stall. Sophia blinked. She had never been spoken to like that before. Embarrassed, she quietly walked away. The encounter bothered her more than she expected. She had done nothing wrong, yet the man had treated her like a nuisance, simply because of her appearance. Still, she tried to remain positive. Maybe he was just having a bad day. Unfortunately, things only got worse. Around midday, hunger began creeping into her stomach. She spotted a bakery and approached the display window. Fresh bread sat neatly arranged behind the glass. The smell was wonderful. As she admired the bread, a woman emerged from inside. The woman's eyes immediately narrowed. Go away. Sophia looked confused. I'm sorry. I said go away. The woman crossed her arms. We don't give free food. Sophia's face flushed. I wasn't asking for any. The woman laughed. Sure you weren't. Several nearby customers chuckled. Humiliation washed over Sophia. She turned and walked away as quickly as possible. Behind her, she could still hear people laughing. The sound stung. For the first time, she began to understand something important. People judged her instantly, not because of who she was, but because of how she looked. As the afternoon continued, she experienced more of the same. Some people ignored her completely. Others stared suspiciously. Several openly insulted her. One shopkeeper even threatened to call security if she didn't leave. By evening, Sophia's excitement had faded. The adventure she imagined was nothing like reality. She found a quiet bench and sat down. Her feet hurt, her stomach growled, and her heart felt heavy. Nearby, two well-dressed women passed by. Neither recognized her. One glanced at Sophia and wrinkled her nose. These homeless people are everywhere. The other nodded. They make the city look terrible. The words hit Sophia like a punch. Just days earlier, people had treated her like royalty. Now strangers spoke about her as if she were garbage. She looked down at her hands. Nothing about her had changed except her clothes. She was still Sophia. Still intelligent. Still kind. Still the same person. Yet the world suddenly treated her differently. That realization was painful. When she finally returned home that night, exhaustion weighed heavily on her shoulders. A maid opened the side entrance and quietly allowed her inside. Moments later, Sophia sat at the dining table with her parents. Richard Johnson looked concerned. How was your first day? Sophia hesitated. Then she laughed bitterly. Horrible. Her father frowned. What happened? People were cruel. She described everything. The fruit seller, the bakery owner, the insults, the stares, the humiliation. When she finished, silence filled the room. Richard looked furious. If anyone treated my daughter that way, Dad, Sophia interrupted him gently. They didn't know I was your daughter. That's the point. Her father clenched his jaw. Sophia could tell he was struggling. As a billionaire, Richard was used to solving problems with influence and resources. Watching his daughter suffer was difficult. But Evelyn remained calm. What did you learn? She asked. Sophia thought carefully. Then she answered. People judge quickly. Her mother nodded. Anything else? Sophia stared at her plate. Being poor is lonely. The room fell silent. Nobody argued with her. The next morning, Sophia returned to the market. Part of her wanted to quit. Life inside the mansion was comfortable, safe, predictable, but another part of her knew she needed to continue. She hadn't come this far just to give up. As the days passed, she learned more about life outside wealth. She saw mothers working tirelessly to feed their children. She saw elderly men struggling to earn enough money for meals. She saw hardworking people who fought every day simply to survive. The experience changed her. For years, poverty had been something she saw in reports and statistics. Now it had faces, names, stories. One afternoon, she watched a little girl selling packets of water beneath the hot sun. The child couldn't have been older than 8. Yet she worked harder than many adults Sophia knew. Later that same day, Sophia witnessed something else. An old man dropped several oranges while crossing the market. Instead of helping him, people walked around him. Some even stepped on the fallen fruit. Sophia immediately rushed over. Together, she and the old man gathered the oranges. Thank you, he said gratefully. His smile warmed her heart. It was one of the few moments of kindness she had experienced all week. Unfortunately, such moments were rare. Most people remained indifferent. Others remained cruel. By the end of the first week, Sophia felt emotionally drained. One afternoon, rain suddenly began pouring from the sky. People rushed for shelter. Sophia hurried toward a nearby awning. Before she could stand beneath it, a shop owner blocked her path. "No beggars." Sophia stared at him. "It's raining. Not my problem." The man pointed away. "Go somewhere else." Within seconds, she was soaked. Cold water dripped from her clothes as she stood in the storm. Cars splashed muddy water onto the roadside. People hurried past without even glancing at her. For the first time since starting her experiment, tears filled her eyes. Not because of the rain, because of the loneliness. Never in her life had she felt so invisible. That evening, she returned home and locked herself in her bedroom. She sat beside the window and stared into the darkness. Maybe this had been a mistake. Maybe she wasn't strong enough for it. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. "Come in." The door opened. Her mother entered carrying 2 cups of tea. Without speaking, Evelyn sat beside her daughter. For several minutes they simply watched the rain outside. Then Sophia finally spoke. "People can be so cruel." "Yes, I don't understand it." Evelyn handed her a cup. "Neither do I." Sophia wiped away a tear. "I thought I'd find kindness." "You will." Sophia looked skeptical. "So far, I've only found rejection." Her mother smiled gently. "Then keep looking. What if there isn't anyone?" "There is." Evelyn sounded certain. "Good people exist. Kind people exist. You just haven't met them yet." Sophia stared out the window. She wanted to believe her mother. She truly did. But after everything she had experienced, hope was becoming difficult. Still, something deep inside refused to quit. Maybe it was determination. Maybe it was stubbornness. Or maybe it was the dream that had started this entire journey. The dream of finding someone who could see beyond wealth. Someone who would value her heart instead of her bank account. The following morning, Sophia woke up and put on her disguise once again. She looked at herself in the mirror. The torn clothes, the dirty face, the worn shoes. Then she took a deep breath. Another day, another chance. Somewhere in the crowded city, she hoped there was still kindness waiting to be discovered. What she didn't know was that fate was already moving quietly behind the scenes. A hard-working young street food seller named Daniel was preparing his stall for another busy day. And very soon their paths would cross. A simple act of kindness was about to change both of their lives forever. The sun hung high over the city as Sophia slowly walked through the crowded marketplace. Another difficult day had begun. It had been nearly 2 weeks since she started living her double life. Every morning she left her family's mansion disguised as a poor homeless woman. She had seen how quickly people dismissed someone who appeared poor. What hurt most was realizing how invisible she had become. Many people no longer looked at her as a person. To them, she was simply a homeless woman occupying space. Sophia walked past dozens of busy stalls. Vendors shouted prices. Customers bargained loudly. Motorcycles weaved through the crowded streets. The marketplace buzzed with life. Yet despite being surrounded by hundreds of people, Sophia felt completely alone. Her stomach growled painfully. She hadn't eaten since early that morning. Normally, she could easily afford the finest restaurants in the city. Now she forced herself to live within the limits of her disguise. She wanted to experience life honestly, to understand what ordinary people faced every day. Unfortunately, hunger had become a frequent companion. As she wandered through the market, the smell of grilled meat drifted through the air. Her mouth watered instantly. Nearby, a woman was selling freshly baked bread. A few meters away, another vendor served spicy rice dishes. Sophia tried not to look. The aromas only reminded her how hungry she was. She found a shaded area near a large tree and sat down heavily. The exhaustion in her body seemed greater than usual. The emotional strain was beginning to wear on her. For several minutes, she simply watched the crowds pass by. Nobody noticed her. Nobody stopped. Nobody cared. A lump formed in her throat. Maybe her mother's plan had failed. Maybe kindness was far rarer than she had imagined. Just as the thought crossed her mind, a familiar voice interrupted her. "Move along." Sophia looked up. A nearby shopkeeper was glaring at her. "You can't sit there." Sophia frowned. "Why not? Customers will see you." The man waved his hand dismissively. "Go somewhere else." Embarrassment washed over her. She slowly stood and walked away. Several people watched the exchange. None of them said a word. Sophia felt tears threatening to form. She blinked them away quickly. Crying would solve nothing. Still, the constant rejection was becoming harder to endure. She wandered deeper into the market. Eventually, she reached a section she had never visited before. Unlike the expensive stores near the entrance, this area consisted mostly of small food stalls and simple wooden tables. The smell of cooking filled the air. Customers sat on plastic chairs eating lunch. Workers stopped briefly to grab meals before returning to their jobs. Sophia's stomach growled again, louder this time. She sat on a low curb across from one of the food stalls. The stall itself was simple. A metal cooking pot sat atop a stove. Several containers held rice, beans, vegetables, and grilled meat. A handwritten sign displayed the day's menu. Behind the stall stood a young man. He appeared to be around 27 years old, tall, hard-working. His sleeves were rolled up as he served customers with a warm smile. Sophia watched him quietly. Unlike many vendors she had encountered, he seemed genuinely friendly. He laughed with customers, asked about their families, remembered their names. People appeared comfortable around him. For nearly 30 minutes, she sat there observing. The young man never once acted impatient or rude. When an elderly customer struggled to count her money, he calmly helped her. When a little boy accidentally dropped his drink, he replaced it without charging extra. The kindness seemed natural, unforced. Sophia found herself smiling slightly. Then her stomach growled again. This time the sound was loud enough that she felt embarrassed. Unfortunately, someone else heard it too. The young food seller looked up. Their eyes met. Sophia immediately looked away. She expected the usual reaction: suspicion, disgust, dismissal. Instead, the young man simply studied her for a moment. Then he returned to serving customers. Sophia relaxed. At least he wasn't chasing her away. A few minutes later, the lunch crowd began to thin. The young man wiped his hands on a towel and glanced toward Sophia again. To her surprise, he walked over. Sophia braced herself. "Excuse me," he said. His voice was calm and friendly. Sophia looked up nervously. "Yes. You look hungry." The simple statement caught her off guard. Most people ignored her suffering. The stranger had noticed immediately. Sophia hesitated. "A little." The young man smiled. "A little?" He laughed softly. "Your stomach sounds like it hasn't eaten all day." Sophia felt her cheeks warm. For the first time in weeks, someone had spoken to her kindly, without judgment, without hostility, without assumptions. The young man extended his hand. "My name is Daniel." Sophia stared at him. No one had introduced themselves to her since she began her disguise. Not one person. She slowly shook his hand. The gesture felt strangely meaningful. "Sophia," she replied automatically before catching herself. Fortunately, Daniel showed no reaction. To him, it was simply a name, nothing more. "Nice to meet you, Sophia." Daniel nodded toward his stall. "Come with me." Sophia blinked. "What? Come eat." Her eyes widened. "No." Daniel looked confused. "No, I don't have any money." The words felt awkward. She wasn't used to saying them. Daniel shrugged. "I didn't ask for any." Sophia stared at him. Surely she had misunderstood. "You're giving me food? Of course. But why?" Daniel looked genuinely surprised by the question. "Because you're hungry." As if that explained everything. Sophia felt emotion rising inside her chest. For 2 weeks she had encountered rejection after rejection, cruelty after cruelty. And now a complete stranger was offering her food simply because she needed it. No conditions, no expectations, just kindness. Daniel gestured toward an empty chair. "Sit." Slowly, Sophia obeyed. A few moments later, Daniel returned carrying a plate of rice, beans, grilled chicken, and vegetables. The meal smelled incredible. He also placed a bottle of water beside her. "There you go." Sophia stared at the food. For a second, she couldn't speak. Then she whispered softly, "Thank you." Daniel smiled. "You're welcome." As she took her first bite, relief flooded through her. The food was delicious, but more than that, it represented something she hadn't experienced in weeks: compassion. Daniel returned to his work while Sophia ate. Several customers arrived. He served them efficiently, yet every so often he glanced toward her to make sure she was okay. When she finished eating, Daniel approached again. "Better?" Sophia nodded. "Much. Good." Sophia hesitated. Then curiosity got the better of her. Why did you help me? Daniel leaned against the stall. What do you mean? Most people don't. His expression softened. For a moment, he seemed to understand exactly what she meant. I know. Sophia lowered her eyes. Then why are you different? Daniel was silent for several seconds. Then he answered quietly. Because I know what it's like. Sophia looked up. What do you mean? A shadow crossed his face. My parents died when I was young. Sophia's heart tightened. I had nothing. Daniel smiled sadly. There were days when I wasn't sure where my next meal would come from. He glanced around the market. Some people helped me. Others didn't. Sophia listened carefully. So I made a promise. What promise? If I ever had enough, I'd help others whenever I could. The simplicity of his answer stunned her. Daniel wasn't wealthy. His stall was small. His clothes were modest. Yet he was more generous than many millionaires she knew, including some of her father's friends. Sophia suddenly realized something. This was the first truly good person she had met since starting her journey. Not because he had money, not because he had status, but because he cared. A customer called for Daniel. He excused himself and returned to work. Sophia remained seated. For the first time in weeks, she didn't want to leave. Eventually, Daniel returned. Business had slowed considerably. Feel free to stay if you want, he said. Sophia smiled. You don't mind? Not at all. And so she stayed. What began as a few minutes turned into hours. Between customers, they talked about simple things. Favorite foods, childhood memories, funny stories. Daniel made her laugh repeatedly. Something she hadn't done much lately. What amazed Sophia most was how easy the conversation felt. Daniel wasn't trying to impress her. He wasn't asking about money. He wasn't interested in what she could provide. He simply enjoyed talking to her. As the afternoon sun slowly began to set, Sophia realized she hadn't thought about her loneliness once since arriving. Daniel had changed that. When evening finally approached, Sophia stood reluctantly. I should go. Daniel nodded. Will you be okay? The concern in his voice felt genuine. Sophia smiled. I will. Good. She hesitated before speaking again. Thank you. For the food. For everything. Daniel smiled warmly. Any time. Sophia turned to leave. After a few steps, Daniel called out. See you tomorrow? The question surprised her. He wanted to see her again. Not because of money. Not because of influence. Not because of her family's wealth. Simply because he enjoyed her company. Sophia felt her heart flutter slightly. She turned and smiled. Yes, see you tomorrow. As she walked away, she couldn't stop smiling. The city looked different, brighter somehow. Hope returned to her heart. For 2 weeks, she had questioned whether good people still existed. Today, she had found one. She didn't know it yet. Neither did Daniel. But that simple meal shared between strangers would become the beginning of a remarkable love story. A story that would soon capture the attention of the entire marketplace and change both of their lives forever. The next morning, Sophia woke up earlier than usual. For the first time since beginning her secret life among the city's poor, she felt excited to leave the mansion. As sunlight streamed through the enormous windows of her luxurious bedroom, she found herself smiling. The reason was simple: Daniel. Throughout the previous evening, she had replayed their conversations over and over in her mind. His kindness, his smile, the way he had offered her food without expecting anything in return. Most importantly, he had treated her like a human being, not a billionaire heiress, not a homeless beggar, just a person. Sophia stood before her mirror and once again transformed herself into the poor woman the market knew. The elegant dresses disappeared. The expensive jewelry remained locked away. Soon the beautiful billionaire heiress vanished beneath worn clothing and a faded scarf. Yet for the first time, Sophia didn't hate putting on the disguise because now there was someone she wanted to see. Someone who made the difficult journey worthwhile. After leaving the mansion, she hurried through the busy streets toward the marketplace. The closer she got to Daniel's stall, the faster her heart seemed to beat. She found herself wondering if he would remember her. Perhaps he had only been kind out of pity. Perhaps yesterday had meant nothing to him. As she approached the food section of the market, she immediately spotted him. Daniel stood behind his stall arranging containers of food. The morning crowd had already begun gathering. Customers greeted him warmly as they passed. Daniel smiled and waved back. Then suddenly he looked up. His eyes found Sophia and his face immediately brightened. "There you are," he called. Sophia felt an unexpected warmth spread through her chest. He remembered her. Daniel pointed toward an empty chair. "I was wondering if you'd come." Sophia tried to hide her smile. "You were?" "Of course," Daniel laughed. "You promised." Sophia sat down. For some reason, the simple welcome meant more to her than she could explain. Someone had actually been happy to see her. Not because of money, not because of status, simply because she was Sophia. Daniel handed her a bottle of water. "Breakfast." Sophia looked surprised. "You saved food for me?" Daniel shrugged casually. "I thought you might be hungry." Sophia stared at him. Every act of kindness seemed effortless for him. Natural. As though helping others was simply part of who he was. "Thank you," she said softly. Daniel smiled. "You're welcome." The morning passed quickly. While Daniel worked, Sophia sat nearby. Whenever business slowed, they talked. They discovered they shared a love for old movies. They both enjoyed listening to music. They both loved watching sunsets. The more they talked, the easier the conversations became. Hours seemed to disappear whenever they were together. Soon this became a routine. Every morning Sophia arrived at Daniel's stall. Every day he saved food for her. Every afternoon they talked whenever business allowed. Days turned into weeks, and with each passing day, their friendship grew stronger. One afternoon, Daniel was preparing food when Sophia noticed him rubbing his shoulder. "You okay?" she asked. Daniel winced slightly. "Just tired. You work too much." Daniel laughed. "Someone has to keep this place running." Sophia glanced around. The stall was busier than ever. Customers seemed to genuinely like Daniel. Many returned every day. "You've built something special here," she said. Daniel smiled proudly. "I hope so." He looked around his small stall. "One day I'd like to own a real restaurant." Sophia's eyes widened. "A restaurant?" Daniel nodded. "A nice one." His eyes sparkled with determination. "Somewhere families can gather. Somewhere people feel welcome." Sophia listened carefully. The dream sounded sincere, beautiful. "What stops you?" Daniel laughed bitterly. "Money." Sophia remained silent. If she wanted, she could write a check large enough to make Daniel's dream come true instantly. But she couldn't. Not without revealing her secret. For the first time, she hated hiding the truth. "I hope it happens someday," she said. Daniel smiled. "So do I." As their friendship continued growing, other market traders began noticing them. At first, it was simple curiosity. Then gossip began spreading. One morning, two women selling vegetables watched Sophia and Daniel talking. "They spend a lot of time together," one woman observed. The other nodded. Every day. Nearby traders overheard the conversation. Soon everyone had an opinion. Some found the friendship heartwarming. Others found it strange. After all, Daniel was one of the most respected vendors in the market. Sophia appeared to be nothing more than a homeless woman. Many couldn't understand why he spent so much time with her. One afternoon, a customer approached Daniel while Sophia sat nearby. The man grinned mischievously. "Your girlfriend is here." Daniel nearly dropped the serving spoon. Sophia felt her face grow warm. "We're just friends," Daniel replied quickly. The customer laughed. "If you say so." Several nearby traders joined in the teasing. Sophia lowered her head, embarrassed. Yet secretly, she found herself smiling. For some reason, the idea didn't sound terrible. Not at all. However, not everyone was kind. Some traders mocked them openly. One afternoon, a wealthy businessman stopped at Daniel's stall. As he paid for his meal, he glanced toward Sophia. "You spend a lot of time feeding beggars." Daniel frowned. The businessman smirked. "Seems like a waste of food." Sophia felt humiliation rising inside her. She prepared herself for Daniel to stay silent. Instead, he surprised her. "Kindness is never a waste." The businessman laughed. "Suit yourself." After he left, Sophia looked at Daniel. "You didn't have to defend me." Daniel shrugged. "Yes, I did." Sophia blinked. "What do you mean?" Daniel looked genuinely confused. Nobody deserves to be spoken about like that. The simplicity of his answer left her speechless. Another piece of her heart quietly surrendered. As the weeks passed, more people began taking sides. Some traders admired Daniel, others mocked him relentlessly. A group of younger vendors often laughed whenever Sophia approached. "Here comes Daniel's bride," they would shout. The entire section would erupt with laughter. Sophia usually ignored them. Daniel often rolled his eyes, but the teasing never completely stopped. Fortunately, there were also kind people in the market. One of them was an older woman named Mama Grace. She sold fabrics several stalls away from Daniel. Unlike the others, Mama Grace saw something special in their friendship. One afternoon, she approached Sophia while Daniel was serving customers. "You make him happy." Sophia looked surprised. "What?" Mama Grace smiled knowingly. "Daniel." Sophia felt her cheeks warm. "We're friends." Mama Grace chuckled. "Friends don't smile at each other like that." Sophia looked away. The older woman laughed. "Don't worry." Then she lowered her voice. "I think it's beautiful." Before Sophia could respond, Mama Grace returned to her stall. Yet her words remained in Sophia's mind all day. Was it obvious? Had her feelings become that clear? The truth was becoming harder to deny. She looked forward to seeing Daniel every morning. She missed him whenever she wasn't there. His happiness mattered to her. His dreams mattered to her. And every day hiding the truth became more difficult. One evening after the market closed, Sophia helped Daniel clean his stall. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and gold. The marketplace had grown unusually quiet. For several minutes they worked in comfortable silence. Then Daniel suddenly spoke. "You know something?" "What?" "I'm glad I met you." Sophia froze. Daniel continued wiping down a table. "Most people only talk about business or money or problems." He smiled. "You actually listen." Sophia swallowed hard. "So do you." Daniel looked at her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Something seemed to pass between them. Connection, a quiet understanding, the kind that couldn't be explained with words. Eventually, Daniel broke the silence. "See you tomorrow?" Sophia smiled. "You always ask that." "Because I like hearing yes." She laughed. The sound made Daniel grin. As Sophia walked home that evening, her thoughts were filled with him. She remembered his kindness, his dreams, his determination, his heart. For years she had searched for someone genuine, someone different, someone who cared more about people than money, and somehow she had found him in the last place she expected, a small food stall in a crowded market. Yet, a growing fear accompanied her happiness. The longer she stayed, the more dangerous her secret became. Every day she delayed telling the truth. Every day she grew closer to Daniel. Every day the eventual revelation became harder. What would happen when he discovered who she really was? Would he understand? Would he forgive her? Or would he feel betrayed? Sophia didn't know, but one thing had become impossible to deny. What began as friendship was slowly becoming something much deeper. And judging by the way Daniel smiled whenever she arrived each morning, she wasn't the only one feeling it. Neither of them knew it yet, but the entire market was already watching. Some with admiration, others with amusement, and many were beginning to suspect that a remarkable love story was unfolding right before their eyes. The months seemed to pass like days. Every morning, Sophia found herself eagerly anticipating her visit to the marketplace. The routine had become the favorite part of her life. She would wake up in her luxurious mansion, disguise herself as a poor homeless woman, and make her way through the bustling streets until she reached Daniel's food stall. And every morning, Daniel would greet her with the same warm smile. "There you are." Those 3 simple words never failed to brighten her day. For Sophia, the market had transformed from a place of loneliness and rejection into a place she cherished. Not because the people had suddenly become kinder, not because life had become easier, but because Daniel was there. He had become the one person she could always count on, the one person who saw her, the real her, or at least the version of her he believed was real. That thought often filled Sophia with guilt. Each day she delayed telling him the truth. Each day their bond grew stronger, and each day the secret became heavier. Yet despite her fears, she couldn't stop herself from falling for him. The feeling had crept into her heart slowly. A smile here, a conversation there, a moment of kindness when she needed it most. Now it had become impossible to ignore. She loved him. One morning, Sophia arrived at the market to find Daniel unusually busy. A long line of customers stretched across the food section. Several office workers waited patiently while Daniel served meals as quickly as possible. Sophia quietly sat in her usual chair and watched. Daniel moved with practiced efficiency. He greeted every customer warmly. He remembered names, asked about families, laughed at jokes. Even during stressful moments, he remained patient. The sight made Sophia smile. A younger version of herself might have admired wealth or status. Now she admired character, and Daniel had more character than anyone she had ever met. Eventually, the crowd thinned. Daniel finally noticed her. "Good morning, good morning." He wiped sweat from his forehead. "Sorry about that." Sophia laughed. "You don't need to apologize for having customers." Daniel grinned. Still, he handed her a plate of food. "Breakfast." Sophia smiled. "You spoil me." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Says the woman who insists on helping me clean every evening." Sophia laughed. The sound immediately attracted attention from nearby traders. Several exchanged knowing glances. The teasing had become a daily occurrence. One vendor called out loudly, "Daniel, should we start preparing for the wedding?" The surrounding stalls erupted with laughter. Daniel nearly dropped the spoon. Sophia covered her face in embarrassment. "Ignore them," Daniel muttered. Unfortunately, the teasing only intensified. Another trader shouted, "Make sure you invite us." Even Mama Grace joined the laughter. Sophia found herself blushing. Yet secretly, she enjoyed the jokes more than she wanted to admit because somewhere deep inside, the idea no longer seemed impossible. As the day continued, Daniel and Sophia spent every available moment talking. Their conversations had become effortless, natural, comfortable. Sometimes they discussed serious topics. Other times they laughed over the smallest things. Sophia found herself sharing stories she had never told anyone before. Of course, she carefully hid details that might reveal her true identity. Still, Daniel seemed to understand her better than most people ever had. One afternoon, while sitting together after lunch, Daniel suddenly asked a question. "What would you do if you had a lot of money?" Sophia nearly choked on her drink. "What?" Daniel laughed. "Relax. It's just a question." Sophia forced herself to remain calm. If only he knew. She considered her answer carefully. "I'd help people." Daniel nodded. "How?" Sophia looked around the market. "I'd create opportunities, build schools, support small businesses, help families." Daniel smiled. "I knew you'd say something like that." Sophia tilted her head. "You did? You're kind." The simple statement caught her off guard. Nobody had described her that way in a long time. Most people focused on her appearance, her family, her wealth. Daniel saw something deeper, and he saw it without knowing who she really was. That realization touched her heart. Later that week, something happened that strengthened Sophia's feelings even further. A heavy rainstorm suddenly swept through the city. The market erupted into chaos. Vendors scrambled to protect their merchandise. Customers rushed for cover. Strong winds blew rainwater across the crowded streets. Sophia found herself caught in the middle of the storm. Within seconds, she was drenched. As she searched for shelter, she heard someone calling her name. "Sophia." She turned. Daniel was standing beneath his stall's awning. Without hesitation, he ran toward her carrying an umbrella. Rain soaked his clothes instantly. "What are you doing?" Sophia asked. Daniel shrugged. "Saving you from drowning." Sophia laughed despite herself. Moments later, they stood together beneath the shelter. Rain hammered against the metal roof. Water poured through the streets like rivers. Several market vendors watched them with amused expressions. One of them nudged another. They looked like a married couple already. More laughter followed. Sophia pretended not to hear, but her heart refused to stop racing. Not because of the teasing, because Daniel had willingly run through a storm to help her. Nobody had ever done something so simple yet meaningful. As they watched the rain together, Sophia felt something shift inside her. The feeling was no longer friendship. It had become something much deeper, something impossible to deny. That evening, she returned home unusually quiet. Her mother noticed immediately. Evelyn smiled knowingly. "Thinking about Daniel?" Sophia nearly dropped her cup. "How do you always know?" Her mother laughed. "Because you're smiling." Sophia looked away. Evelyn sat beside her. "You love him." The words hung in the air. For a moment, Sophia said nothing. Then she whispered softly, "Yes." Admitting it out loud made it feel real. Her mother squeezed her hand. "Does he love you?" Sophia sighed. "I don't know." but deep down she suspected he did. The signs were becoming harder to ignore. The way his face brightened whenever she arrived. The concern he showed whenever she seemed sad. The countless little acts of kindness. Yet uncertainty remained. What if she was imagining it? What if he only saw her as a friend? The following week brought her answer. It happened on an ordinary afternoon. The lunch crowd had disappeared. The marketplace was quieter than usual. Daniel and Sophia sat together sharing a simple meal. For several minutes neither spoke. The silence felt comfortable. Then Daniel suddenly looked nervous. Sophia immediately noticed. "What is it?" Daniel rubbed the back of his neck. "Nothing. Daniel." He sighed. "Fine." Sophia waited patiently. Daniel took a deep breath, then another. Finally he spoke. "I need to tell you something." Sophia's heart began pounding. Daniel rarely appeared nervous. Seeing him struggle for words made her anxious. "What is it?" Daniel stared down at the table. Then he looked into her eyes. The sincerity there took her breath away. "I care about you." Sophia froze. The marketplace seemed to disappear around them. All she could hear was her heartbeat. Daniel continued. "I care about you a lot." His voice was quiet but steady. "You've become the best part of my day." Sophia felt emotion building inside her chest. Every word mattered. Every word felt genuine. Daniel smiled nervously. "I know people think we're crazy." He glanced around the market. They laugh. They gossip. They make jokes. Sophia couldn't look away. "But I don't care." Daniel took a deep breath. Then he finally said the words that changed everything. "I think I'm falling in love with you." For a moment Sophia couldn't speak. Months of loneliness, months of searching, months of wondering whether true love existed. And now here it was, standing right in front of her, not disguised by wealth, not influenced by status. Real, beautifully real. Tears filled her eyes. Daniel immediately looked worried. "Did I say something wrong?" Sophia shook her head. "No." "Then why are you crying?" A laugh escaped her. "Because I've wanted to hear that for so long." Daniel stared at her. Hope appeared in his eyes. "Sophia." She reached for his hand. The simple touch sent electricity through both of them. "I love you too." Daniel looked stunned. Then happiness spread across his face. The kind of happiness that couldn't be faked. The kind that came straight from the heart. Nearby traders began noticing the emotional conversation. Within minutes, people were watching openly. Even Mama Grace stopped working. A smile slowly appeared on her face. Daniel squeezed Sophia's hand. Neither cared about the audience anymore. For the first time, they were completely honest about their feelings. And it felt wonderful. As the sun began setting over the market, they sat together hand in hand. The world seemed brighter, lighter, more beautiful. Yet hidden beneath Sophia's happiness was a growing fear. Daniel loved her, and she loved him, but he still didn't know the truth. He believed she was a homeless woman, poor woman with nothing. The longer she waited to reveal her secret, the greater the risk became. Still, as she looked into Daniel's eyes, she couldn't bring herself to ruin the moment. Not yet. Tonight, she wanted to enjoy the happiness she had searched for her entire life. Because after years of disappointment, heartbreak, and loneliness, Sophia Johnson had finally found what money could never buy, true love. And for now, that was enough. The news spread through the marketplace faster than a wildfire. Daniel and Sophia were officially a couple. By the morning after their confession, nearly everyone in the market seemed to know about it. Somehow, what had started as quiet friendship had become the most talked about story in the entire marketplace. As Sophia approached Daniel's stall that morning, she immediately noticed dozens of curious eyes watching her. Some traders smiled. Others whispered to one another. A few openly pointed. Sophia lowered her head, trying to avoid attention. It didn't work. "Look who's here," a fruit vendor shouted. Several people laughed. "The bride has arrived." Sophia's face instantly turned red. Across the market, Daniel looked up from his stall and groaned. The laughter grew louder. Even some customers joined in. One elderly man chuckled. "Daniel, when's the wedding?" More laughter erupted. Daniel shook his head. "You people need hobbies." The crowd laughed even harder. Sophia couldn't help smiling. Although the attention embarrassed her, there was something strangely heartwarming about it. For the first time since arriving in the market months ago, people weren't looking at her with disgust. They weren't treating her like she was invisible. Instead, They were treating her as part of the community. As she reached Daniel's stall, he handed her a plate of breakfast. "You survived the walkover?" Sophia laughed. "Barely." Daniel nodded toward the crowd. "They've been waiting all morning." "Seriously, I think half the market was disappointed when you weren't here at sunrise." Sophia rolled her eyes. "They're impossible." Daniel grinned. "I know." Their fingers briefly touched as she accepted the plate. A simple moment, yet both of them smiled. Nearby traders noticed immediately. The teasing started all over again. Sophia buried her face in her hands. Daniel laughed. Life suddenly felt lighter, happier. For weeks afterward, their relationship continued to blossom. Every morning Sophia arrived at the market. Every evening she stayed until Daniel finished working. Whenever business slowed, they sat together talking for hours. They shared dreams, stories, fears, and hopes for the future. For Daniel, life had never felt so good. For Sophia, it felt almost perfect. Almost because the secret remained. Every day she looked into Daniel's eyes and felt guilt growing inside her heart. The more he trusted her, the worse she felt. One afternoon, while they sat together beneath a tree near the market, Daniel spoke about the future. "I've been thinking." Sophia smiled. "That's usually dangerous." Daniel laughed. "Very funny." She grinned. "So, what have you been thinking about?" Daniel looked unusually serious. "Our future." Sophia's heart skipped a beat. "What about it?" Daniel glanced toward his small food stall. "I know I don't have much." "Daniel, no, let me finish." Sophia remained silent. Daniel took a deep breath. "Right now, all I have is that stall. But someday I want more." His eyes shone with determination. "I want a restaurant. A real restaurant. Not for me. For us." Sophia felt tears threatening to form. Daniel smiled. "I know it won't happen overnight. I'll have to save. I'll have to work hard. Maybe for years. But one day I'll build something worthy of you." Sophia's chest tightened painfully. If only he knew. If only he knew she could buy 10 restaurants tomorrow without even noticing the expense. Yet hearing him speak that way touched her deeply. He wasn't dreaming of wealth. He was dreaming of building a future together. A future he believed they could earn through hard work and love. Sophia reached for his hand. "You're already enough." Daniel smiled softly. To him, those words meant everything. Unfortunately, not everyone in the market admired their relationship. Some people still mocked them relentlessly. A group of traders often gathered near the entrance of the market. They enjoyed gossiping about everyone, especially Daniel and Sophia. One afternoon, Sophia overheard them talking. "I don't understand Daniel." "Neither do I. He's wasting his time." The men laughed. "Imagine falling in love with a homeless woman." Sophia froze. The words stung. Even after months, hearing people speak about her that way still hurt. One of the men continued, "Poor Daniel. His future is finished." The group burst into laughter. Before Sophia could walk away, another voice interrupted. "That's enough." The laughter stopped immediately. Sophia turned. Mama Grace stood nearby. The elderly fabric seller looked furious. "What business is it of yours who Daniel loves?" The men exchanged uncomfortable glances. One attempted to laugh. "We're just joking." "No." Mama Grace pointed at them. "You're being cruel." The marketplace fell silent. People began watching. Mama Grace rarely lost her. When she did, everyone paid attention. She folded her arms. "You men spend your days criticizing others. Meanwhile, Daniel spends his helping people." Nobody spoke. The older woman pointed toward Sophia. "That young woman has a good heart." Then she pointed toward Daniel's stall. "And so does Daniel." Her voice softened. "That's why they're together." The men lowered their eyes. Several people nearby nodded in agreement. Sophia felt emotion rising inside her chest. After months of facing judgment, someone had openly defended her. Mama Grace smiled at Sophia. "Don't listen to fools." Sophia nodded gratefully. "Thank you." The older woman winked. "Besides," she lowered her voice, "I think you two are adorable." Sophia laughed through her tears. Word of the exchange quickly spread. From that day forward, more people openly supported the couple. Customers often stopped by Daniel's stall just to chat. Some brought small gifts. Others offered encouragement. Little by little, Daniel and Sophia became the market's favorite couple. One evening, after the market closed, several traders organized an impromptu gathering. Someone brought music, others brought food. Soon dozens of people were laughing together. Daniel and Sophia sat near the center of it all. For the first time, Sophia truly felt accepted. A few months earlier, these same people had ignored her. Now they welcomed her. The transformation amazed her. At one point, Mama Grace sat beside her. "You seem happy." Sophia smiled. "I am." The older woman studied her carefully. "Then why do you look worried?" Sophia froze. Mama Grace's sharp eyes missed very little. "It's nothing." Mama Grace raised an eyebrow. "I've lived a long time. You don't fool me." Sophia looked away. For a moment, she considered telling the truth. Not everything, just enough. But fear stopped her. The secret felt too dangerous, too complicated. Mama Grace gently squeezed her hand. "Whatever it is, don't carry it alone forever." Sophia swallowed hard. The words stayed with her long after the gathering ended. That night, she returned to the mansion feeling emotionally exhausted. As soon as she entered the house, Evelyn noticed something was wrong. "You've been crying." Sophia sat beside her mother. "I don't know what to do." Evelyn already understood. "Daniel?" Sophia nodded. "He talks about the future. He trusts me. He loves me." Tears filled her eyes. "And I'm still lying to him." Evelyn remained silent. Sophia buried her face in her hands. "What if he hates me when he finds out? What if he thinks everything was fake? What if I lose him?" Her mother wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "You won't know until you tell him." Sophia sighed. "I know, but every day it gets harder, because every day she loved him more." The next morning, Sophia returned to the market. Daniel greeted her with his usual smile. That smile alone made her heart ache. He trusted her completely, and she was terrified of breaking that trust. As the day continued, Sophia found herself studying him. The way he laughed, the way he treated customers, the way he helped strangers, the way he never expected anything in return. He truly was the kindest man she had ever met. Late that afternoon, an elderly customer accidentally dropped her bag of groceries. Without hesitation, Daniel rushed over to help. Several apples rolled across the ground. Daniel gathered every one of them. Then he carried the woman's bags all the way to the bus stop. Sophia watched from a distance. The scene perfectly captured who he was. Kindness wasn't something Daniel performed. It was something he lived. When he returned, Sophia smiled. "You know you're impossible, right?" Daniel looked confused. "What did I do?" "Exactly." Daniel laughed. "You're weird." Sophia laughed too. Yet behind her smile, a painful realization grew stronger. The truth couldn't stay hidden forever. Sooner or later, Daniel would discover who she really was. And when that day came, everything could change. Still, as the sun slowly disappeared beyond the city skyline, Sophia pushed the fear aside. For now, she wanted to enjoy the happiness they had built together. The market buzzed around them. Customers came and went. Traders laughed and called out greetings. And at the center of it all sat Daniel and Sophia, the market's favorite couple, admired by many, mocked by some, loved by others, completely unaware that the greatest test of their relationship was drawing closer with every passing day. And when the truth finally emerged, nothing would ever be the same again. The secret was becoming unbearable. Every morning Sophia woke up with the same thought. Today I will tell him. And every evening she returned home without saying a word. Weeks had passed since she and Daniel confessed their love for one another. Their relationship had grown stronger with each passing day. They laughed together, dreamed together, shared meals together, supported one another through difficult days. The entire market now viewed them as a couple. Even the traders who once mocked them had begun accepting their relationship. Yet beneath all the happiness, Sophia carried a burden that grew heavier every day. The burden of deception. She hated lying to Daniel. More than once she had opened her mouth to tell him everything. That she wasn't homeless, that she wasn't poor, that she lived in one of the largest mansions in the city, that her father was one of the richest men in the country. But fear always stopped her. Fear of losing him. Fear of seeing disappointment in his eyes. Fear of destroying the beautiful relationship they had built together. One afternoon, Sophia sat beside Daniel while he served customers. The lunch crowd had finally thinned. For once, the market felt unusually peaceful. Daniel handed a meal to an elderly customer and smiled warmly. "Take care of yourself, okay?" The woman laughed. You sound like my son. Maybe because you're always ignoring my advice." The woman playfully swatted his arm. Both laughed. Sophia watched the exchange with a smile. Moments like these reminded her why she loved him. Daniel treated everyone with kindness. Young, old, rich, poor. It didn't matter. His heart remained the same. After the customer left, Daniel sat beside Sophia. "What are you thinking about?" Sophia blinked. You've been staring at me." A smile tugged at his lips. Sophia laughed. "Maybe you're just interesting." Daniel pretended to look shocked. "Finally, it only took months for you to realize." Sophia rolled her eyes. "You'll never survive with an ego that big." Daniel laughed. The sound made her heart flutter. Even after all these months, she still felt that way whenever he smiled. The feeling never faded. If anything, it only grew stronger. Later that afternoon, a wealthy businessman approached the stall. Sophia immediately recognized him. He was one of her father's business associates. Thankfully, he didn't recognize her beneath the disguise. The man ordered food and sat nearby. As he ate, he glanced toward Sophia, then toward Daniel. A smirk appeared on his face. "You two are together?" Daniel nodded proudly. The businessman laughed. "Interesting choice." Sophia stiffened. She knew exactly what he meant. Daniel's expression darkened slightly. "What does that mean?" The man shrugged. "Nothing." But his tone suggested otherwise. Daniel folded his arms. "If you have something to say, say it." The businessman chuckled. "I'm just surprised." He glanced at Sophia. Most men dream bigger. The insult hung in the air. Several nearby customers looked uncomfortable. Sophia lowered her eyes. She hated moments like this. Daniel remained silent for several seconds. Then he smiled, a calm, confident smile. "Then those men are fools." The businessman frowned. Daniel pointed towards Sophia. "She's one of the best people I've ever met." The market seemed to grow quieter. Daniel continued, "She has a good heart. She's kind. She's honest." The word honest struck Sophia like a knife. A wave of guilt rushed through her chest. Daniel smiled. "And that's worth more than anything money can buy." The businessman rolled his eyes. "Whatever you say." He paid for his meal and walked away. Sophia couldn't speak. Daniel's words echoed in her mind. "She's honest." If only he knew the truth. That evening, after the market closed, Sophia sat alone on a nearby bench while Daniel cleaned his stall. The guilt refused to leave her. In fact, it seemed stronger than ever. When Daniel finally joined her, he immediately noticed something was wrong. "What's bothering you?" Sophia forced a smile. "Nothing." Daniel laughed softly. "You've got to stop using that answer." Sophia looked away. "It's complicated." Daniel's expression softened. "You know you can tell me anything, right?" The words made her chest tighten. Anything. If only it were that simple. Sophia stared at the ground. Part of her desperately wanted to confess. Right now. Immediately. End the lies. End the fear. End the guilt. But another voice inside her whispered warnings. What if he walks away? What if he never speaks to you again? What if you lose everything? The possibility terrified her. So once again, she remained silent. Daniel gently squeezed her hand. "Whenever you're ready." Sophia nodded. Yet the guilt only grew. That night, she returned home emotionally exhausted. Her mother found her sitting alone in the garden. The stars glittered above them. The mansion stood silent in the darkness. Evelyn sat beside her daughter. "You still haven't told him." Sophia shook her head. "I can't." "Yes, you can." Sophia looked up. "What if I lose him?" Evelyn sighed softly. "My dear, every relationship is built on trust." Sophia remained silent. Her mother continued, "If Daniel truly loves you, he'll understand why you did it. What if he doesn't?" Evelyn looked toward the stars. "Then he wasn't meant for you." The answer hurt because deep down Sophia knew her mother was right. Still, the fear remained. The next few days passed quickly. Business at Daniel's stall became busier than ever. More customers arrived daily. Many specifically came because they liked Daniel. Others simply enjoyed watching him and Sophia together. Their relationship had become something of a local legend. One afternoon, Mama Grace approached them, carrying several fabric samples. She looked unusually cheerful. "What now?" Daniel asked. Mama Grace grinned. "I've decided something." Sophia immediately looked suspicious. That smile usually meant trouble. The older woman pointed at them. You two are getting married someday. Both froze. Several nearby traders burst into laughter. Mama Grace. Sophia covered her face. The older woman ignored her. I've seen hundreds of couples. She pointed dramatically. You two are different. Daniel laughed. Different how? Mama Grace smiled knowingly. You look at each other like the rest of the world disappears. Sophia's face turned bright red. The surrounding crowd laughed again. Even Daniel seemed embarrassed. Yet secretly, neither could deny the truth. The feelings between them had become impossible to hide. As the weeks continued, Sophia found herself falling even deeper in love. She loved Daniel's kindness, his optimism, his determination, the way he treated strangers, the way he remembered small details about people, the way he never gave up. One evening, Daniel surprised her. After closing the stall, he approached with a shy smile. Come with me. Sophia raised an eyebrow. Where? It's a surprise. Curiosity immediately won. She followed him through several quiet streets. Eventually, they reached a small hill overlooking the city. The view was breathtaking. Thousands of lights sparkled below. Cars moved through the streets like streams of stars. A gentle breeze drifted through the air. Sophia stared in amazement. It's beautiful. Daniel smiled. I come here when I need to think. For several minutes, they stood side by side watching the city. The moment felt peaceful, perfect, almost magical. Then Daniel spoke. You changed my life. Sophia turned toward him. What? Daniel looked out over the city. Before I met you, every day felt the same. He smiled softly. Work, sleep, repeat. Sophia listened quietly. But then you showed up. His eyes met hers, and suddenly everything became better. Emotion filled Sophia's chest. Daniel took her hand. I know we don't have much. Maybe we'll never be rich. Sophia nearly laughed at the irony. Daniel continued. But I've never been happier. A tear slipped down Sophia's cheek. Daniel gently wiped it away. Hey. She laughed softly. I'm okay. No, you're crying. Happy tears. Daniel smiled. The city lights reflected in his eyes. For a moment, neither spoke, neither moved. The world seemed to fade away around them. Sophia's heart pounded. Daniel stepped slightly closer. She didn't move away. The distance between them disappeared. Slowly, carefully, as if neither wanted to break the moment. Then Daniel kissed her. The kiss was gentle, tender, filled with every emotion they had spent months building together. Sophia closed her eyes. For a few seconds, nothing else existed. Not the market, not the mansion, not the secret, just them. When they finally pulled apart, both were smiling. Neither knew what to say, neither needed words. The moment said everything. Eventually, Daniel laughed nervously. So? Sophia laughed too. So? Daniel rubbed the back of his neck. That happened. Sophia nodded. Yes, it did. They sat together beneath the stars for another hour, talking, laughing, dreaming about the future. For the first time, Sophia allowed herself to imagine a life with him. A real life, a happy life, a forever kind of life. Yet as the evening drew to a close, reality returned. The secret, the lie, the truth she had hidden for so long. As Daniel walked her back toward the city, Sophia made a decision. Tomorrow, she would tell him everything. No more delays, no more excuses, no more fear. He deserved the truth. Whatever happened afterward would happen. As they reached the place where they usually parted ways, Daniel smiled. I'll see you tomorrow. Sophia looked into his eyes. Her heart ached because she knew tomorrow could change everything. Yes. Her voice was barely above a whisper. I'll see you tomorrow. Daniel leaned forward and kissed her forehead. Then he walked away. Sophia watched him disappear into the darkness. Tears filled her eyes, not from sadness, from fear. Tomorrow he would learn who she really was. Tomorrow he would discover that the homeless woman he loved was actually billionaire heiress Sophia Johnson. Tomorrow his entire world would be turned upside down, and Sophia had no idea whether their love would survive the truth. Sophia barely slept that night. After returning home from her unforgettable evening with Daniel, she lay awake staring at the ceiling of her luxurious bedroom. The memory of their kiss replayed endlessly in her mind. His smile, his gentle touch, the way he had looked at her as though she were the most important person in the world. Each memory brought happiness and pain because she knew the truth was about to change everything. Several times during the night she considered abandoning her plan. Perhaps she could continue pretending. Perhaps she could wait a little longer. A few more days, a few more weeks, maybe even a few more months. But deep down she knew that wasn't possible. Daniel deserved honesty. He deserved the truth, no matter how painful it might be. As dawn approached, Sophia finally rose from bed and walked to the window. The city was beginning to wake. Sunlight slowly painted the skyline gold. Today would change her life forever. She could feel it. A soft knock came from the door. "Come in." Her mother entered quietly. Evelyn immediately noticed the exhaustion in Sophia's eyes. "You didn't sleep." Sophia shook her head. "I'm terrified." Her mother sat beside her. "That's normal." "What if he hates me?" Evelyn gently took her hand. "If his love is real, he'll listen." Sophia swallowed hard. "And if it isn't?" Her mother smiled sadly. "Then you'll finally know the truth." The words lingered in the air. Sophia knew her mother was right. For months she had searched for truth. Now she would have to face it herself. After breakfast, preparations began. For the first time since starting her experiment, Sophia would return to the market as her true self. No disguise, no torn clothes, no faded scarf, no lies. Professional stylists arrived at the mansion. Her hair was carefully arranged. Elegant makeup highlighted her natural beauty. A stunning designer dress was selected from her wardrobe. Diamond earrings sparkled beneath the morning light. When Sophia finally stood before the mirror, she almost didn't recognize herself. Not because she looked different, but because she had become so accustomed to seeing the disguised version of herself. For months she had hidden behind poverty. Now she stood once again as Sophia Johnson, billionaire heiress, daughter of one of the wealthiest men in the nation. The contrast felt surreal. Her father entered the room. Richard Johnson studied her carefully. "You look beautiful." Sophia smiled weakly. "Thank you." He immediately noticed her nervousness. "You don't have to do this today." "Yes, I do." Her voice was firm. "I should have told him long ago." Richard nodded. For once he offered no argument. Instead, he simply kissed her forehead. "Whatever happens, your mother and I are proud of you." Tears filled Sophia's eyes. "Thank you." An hour later, a sleek black Rolls-Royce waited outside the mansion. The luxury vehicle gleamed beneath the morning sun. Its polished exterior reflected the surrounding gardens. The driver opened the rear door. Sophia paused. For months she had traveled by foot. Today she would arrive in a way nobody expected. Taking a deep breath, she entered the car. The door closed softly behind her. As the Rolls-Royce pulled away from the mansion, her heart pounded harder with every passing minute. Meanwhile, at the market, Daniel prepared for another ordinary day. At least he thought it would be ordinary. The morning crowd had already begun arriving. Customers lined up for breakfast. Vendors arranged merchandise. The familiar sounds of bargaining filled the air. Everything seemed normal, yet Daniel couldn't shake a strange feeling. Something felt different. Perhaps it was because Sophia hadn't arrived yet. Usually she appeared shortly after sunrise. Today there was no sign of her. Daniel checked the time. Still nothing. "Waiting for your girlfriend?" One of the traders laughed. Daniel rolled his eyes. "Mind your business." The trader grinned. "You're worried." "I'm not worried. You checked the road 5 times. Nearby vendors laughed. Daniel shook his head. But secretly they were right. He missed her. As the morning continued, more traders noticed her absence. Even Mama Grace looked concerned. "Have you heard from Sophia?" Daniel shook his head. "No." The older woman frowned. "That's unusual." Before Daniel could respond, a distant sound interrupted the conversation. Several people turned toward the main entrance of the market. A luxury vehicle was approaching. An expensive luxury vehicle. Heads began turning. Conversations stopped. The vehicle slowly rolled through the market streets. Its polished black exterior gleamed in the sunlight. Within seconds, everyone recognized it. A Rolls-Royce, the type of vehicle most people only saw in magazines. The marketplace grew unusually quiet. Customers stopped eating. Vendors stopped working. Even Daniel stared in confusion. "What is a car like that doing here?" someone whispered. Nobody knew. The Rolls-Royce continued moving forward until it reached the center of the market. Then it stopped. Silence fell over the crowd. Hundreds of eyes focused on the vehicle. People whispered excitedly. Speculation spread rapidly. Politician? A celebrity? A billionaire? The driver stepped out first. He walked around the vehicle and opened the rear door. The crowd held its breath. Then a woman emerged. The reaction was immediate. Shock. Pure shock. Gasps echoed throughout the market. Several people dropped what they were holding. Others stared with wide eyes. Daniel felt his heart stop because he recognized her instantly. Sophia. The woman standing before them was Sophia, yet she looked completely different. Gone were the worn clothes. Gone was the dirt. Gone was the scarf. Standing before the market was an elegant young woman dressed in designer clothing and expensive jewelry. She looked like royalty, beautiful, confident, wealthy, completely unrecognizable. The crowd erupted into chaos. What? That's impossible. The homeless girl? No way. People pushed closer. Traders abandoned their stalls. Customers gathered around. Within moments, a massive crowd surrounded the Rolls-Royce. Daniel remained frozen. His mind struggled to process what he was seeing. Couldn't be real. Yet there she was. The woman he loved, standing beside a luxury car worth more than he would earn in decades. Sophia slowly walked toward him. Each step felt heavier than the last. The crowd parted to let her pass. Nobody spoke. Everyone waited. Daniel stared at her. Confusion filled his face. Pain, shock, disbelief. Finally, he found his voice. Sophia. His voice barely emerged as a whisper. Sophia nodded. Tears already filled her eyes. Daniel. The crowd leaned closer. Nobody wanted to miss a single word. What is this? Daniel asked. Sophia took a shaky breath. It's the truth. The marketplace became completely silent. Sophia looked around at the gathered crowd. Many of these people had known her for months. Some had mocked her. Others had supported her. Now, they all deserved answers, especially Daniel. My name is Sophia Johnson. Several people exchanged confused looks. Then, recognition began spreading. The Johnson family? The billionaires? No way. Sophia nodded. My father is Richard Johnson. The reaction was explosive. Gasps erupted throughout the market. Several traders covered their mouths in shock. Others looked ready to faint. Even Mama Grace appeared stunned. Daniel simply stared, speechless. Sophia continued. Months ago, I was searching for something. Her voice trembled. Every man who approached me wanted my father's wealth. She wiped away tears. Nobody wanted me. The crowd listened carefully. My mother suggested I hide who I was. She told me to live among ordinary people, to discover who would care about me without knowing my family name. Realization slowly spread through the marketplace. People began understanding the disguise, the torn clothes, the months she spent among them. Everything suddenly made sense. Sophia looked directly at Daniel. Her voice broke. Then I met you. Tears streamed down her cheeks. You fed me when nobody else would. You talked to me. You cared about me. The crowd remained silent. Even the usual gossipers said nothing. Sophia took another step closer. You loved me before you knew who I was. Daniel's expression remained unreadable. Sophia's heart sank. Fear consumed her because she couldn't tell what he was thinking. Shock, anger, hurt, all of them. The silence stretched endlessly. Around them, the entire market waited. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Everyone understood they were witnessing a moment that would be remembered for years. A homeless woman had become a billionaire heiress. A market love story had suddenly become something extraordinary. And standing at the center of it all was Daniel, the man whose reaction would determine what happened next. Sophia looked at him through tears, terrified, hopeful, broken, waiting. And for the first time since arriving at the market, she had nothing left to hide. The marketplace remained completely silent. Hundreds of people stood frozen around Sophia and Daniel. Nobody seemed willing to breathe. Nobody wanted to interrupt the moment. The shocking revelation still hung in the air. Sophia Johnson, the homeless woman who had spent months walking among them, the woman many had ignored, the woman some had mocked, the woman Daniel had fallen in love with. She was not poor. She was not homeless. She was the daughter of billionaire Richard Johnson, and now everyone knew. Sophia stood beside the Rolls-Royce, tears streaming down her face. Daniel remained motionless. His eyes never left her. The silence stretched painfully. Every second felt like an hour. Finally, Daniel spoke. One simple question. Why? His voice was quiet, but the hurt behind it was unmistakable. Sophia swallowed hard. Daniel, why? This time his voice was stronger. The crowd exchanged nervous glances. The pain in his eyes broke Sophia's heart. She took a step closer. I never wanted to hurt you. Daniel laughed bitterly. Hurt me? The sound shocked everyone. Daniel rarely showed anger, yet now it radiated from him. You let me believe you were homeless. Sophia lowered her head. I know. You let me believe you had nowhere to go. I know. You let me believe I knew you. Each word struck harder than the last. The crowd watched silently. Even Mama Grace looked worried. Sophia wiped away her tears. Please let me explain. Daniel looked away. For several moments he said nothing. Then he nodded once. Explain. Sophia took a deep breath. The entire marketplace listened. Months of secrets were finally about to be revealed. When I was younger, I believed love would be easy. Her voice trembled. But as I got older, I realized people only saw my father's money. Several traders nodded slowly. She continued. Every relationship I had ended the same way. They wanted access to my father. They wanted business opportunities. They wanted wealth. A painful sadness entered her voice. Nobody wanted me. The crowd grew quieter. Some of the women exchanged sympathetic looks. Sophia continued. My mother suggested something unusual. A faint smile crossed her face. She told me to hide who I was. Daniel listened silently. I didn't believe it would work, but I tried. She looked around the market. I came here dressed as a poor woman. At first, people treated me terribly. Several traders lowered their eyes. Some remembered exactly how they had treated her. Others looked embarrassed. Sophia continued. I was insulted. I was ignored. I was chased away. The marketplace grew uncomfortable because everyone knew she was telling the truth. Many of them had witnessed it. Some had participated. Then her eyes found Daniel. Until I met him. The crowd looked toward Daniel. Sophia smiled through her tears. He was the first person who showed me kindness. Her voice cracked. The first person who offered me food. The first person who cared. Daniel remained silent, but the anger in his expression had begun to soften slightly. Sophia stepped closer. Everything after that was real. The words came from deep within her heart. Our conversations were real. Our friendship was real. Our love was real. Daniel looked away. The hurt remained visible, but so did uncertainty. Sophia reached toward him, then stopped, afraid he might pull away. I never planned to fall in love. Her voice shook, but I did. The crowd listened quietly. Every word felt genuine. Every emotion felt real. Sophia wiped away another tear, and that made the lie harder. Daniel finally looked at her again. Harder. Sophia nodded. Every day I wanted to tell you. Every single day. After a while, I became afraid. Afraid you'd leave. The confession hung in the air. Daniel's expression softened slightly because he could hear the truth in her voice. She wasn't making excuses. She was terrified. Terrified of losing him. Still, the hurt remained. You should have trusted me. The words were barely above a whisper. Sophia closed her eyes. I know. The simple answer carried enormous regret. Daniel stared at the ground. The crowd remained silent. Nobody wanted to interfere. Nobody wanted to influence what happened next. The decision belonged to Daniel. Only Daniel. Several moments passed. Then suddenly Daniel turned away. The movement shocked everyone. Sophia's heart dropped. Daniel. He shook his head. I need a minute. Then he began walking away. The crowd immediately parted. Nobody dared stop him. Sophia watched helplessly as he disappeared through the market. Fresh tears filled her eyes. The worst fear of her life seemed to be coming true. He was leaving. Around her, people exchanged worried looks. Nobody knew what to say. Nobody knew what would happen next. Sophia slowly sat down on a nearby chair. For the first time since arriving at the market, she felt completely lost. Several minutes passed. Then Mama Grace approached. The elderly woman placed a gentle hand on Sophia's shoulder. Give him time. Sophia nodded, though she wasn't sure time would be enough. Meanwhile, Daniel walked aimlessly through the city. His emotions were a storm. Shock, confusion, anger, heartbreak. The woman he loved had lied to him. Not about something small, about everything. Or at least that's how it felt. Every memory replayed through his mind. Their first meeting, their conversations, their first confession of love, their kiss. Had any of it been real? The question tormented him. Eventually, he found himself sitting alone on a bench overlooking the river. The city moved around him. Cars passed, people hurried by, yet Daniel noticed none of it. His thoughts remained fixed on Sophia. After nearly an hour, footsteps approached. Daniel looked up. To his surprise, Mama Grace stood before him. The older woman sat beside him without asking permission. For several moments neither spoke. Then she sighed. "You always come here when you're upset." Daniel looked surprised. "How did you know where I was?" Mama Grace smiled. "Because I've known you for years." Daniel laughed despite himself. The older woman studied him carefully. "You're angry." "Of course I'm angry." Mama Grace nodded. "Fair enough." Daniel stared at the river. "She lied to me." "Yes." "I trusted her." "Yes." Daniel clenched his fists. "So why shouldn't I be angry?" Mama Grace remained silent for a moment. Then she asked a question. "Did she lie because she wanted your money?" Daniel frowned. "No." "Did she lie because she wanted to hurt you?" "No." "Did she lie because she thought you were beneath her?" Daniel immediately shook his head. "Never." Mama Grace smiled softly. "Then why did she lie?" Daniel looked away because he already knew the answer. Fear. The same fear that had led Sophia into the market in the first place. The fear of never being loved for who she truly was. Mama Grace gently nudged his shoulder. "That young woman loves you." Daniel remained silent. The older woman continued. "I watched her for months. I saw the way she looked at you. I saw the way she worried about you. I saw the way she smiled whenever you were near." Daniel's expression softened. Despite everything, he couldn't deny it. Sophia loved him. He knew that. The problem was the betrayal. Mama Grace seemed to read his thoughts. "Love doesn't erase mistakes." She spoke gently, but sometimes it helps us forgive them. Daniel looked toward the sky. The older woman's words settled deep inside him. Then she delivered the final blow. "The reason Sophia found you is because of your good heart." Daniel looked at her. Mama Grace smiled. "Don't lose that heart now." Silence followed. Long silence. Then slowly Daniel smiled. Not a big smile. Just enough. Enough for Mama Grace to know. The anger was beginning to fade. Back at the marketplace, Sophia remained seated near the Rolls-Royce. She hadn't moved. The crowd still lingered nearby. Many traders had returned to work, but nobody had gone far. Everyone wanted to know what would happen. Hours seemed to pass. Then suddenly, a familiar figure appeared walking through the market toward her. Daniel. The crowd immediately noticed. Conversations stopped. People turned. Sophia stood slowly. Hope and fear collided inside her chest. Daniel stopped a few feet away. Neither spoke immediately. The marketplace became silent once again. Finally, Daniel sighed. "You really made a mess of things." A nervous laugh escaped Sophia. "So, I've been told." For the first time all day, Daniel smiled. A small smile, but a smile nonetheless. Fresh tears filled Sophia's eyes. Daniel shook his head. "You should have told me sooner." "I know." "You should have trusted me." "I know." Sophia looked down. "I'm sorry." The apology was sincere, completely sincere. Daniel stared at her for several moments. Then he stepped forward and wrapped his arms around her. The crowd gasped. Sophia froze. Then she burst into tears. Daniel held her tightly. "I was angry." His voice was soft. "I know. I'm still a little angry." Sophia laughed through her tears. "Fair." Daniel smiled. "But I love you." The crowd erupted into cheers. Applause echoed throughout the market. Several traders shouted excitedly. Mama Grace smiled proudly. Sophia looked up at Daniel. "You forgive me?" Daniel nodded. Slowly, gently, "Yes." Then he added something that made the crowd cheer even louder. "Because your disguise isn't why I fell in love with you." Tears filled Sophia's eyes again. Daniel smiled. "I fell in love with your heart." The entire marketplace exploded with emotion. People clapped, laughed, cheered. Some even wiped away tears. And as Sophia threw her arms around Daniel once more, she realized something incredible. The secret was finally gone. The truth was finally free. And somehow, despite all the fear, their love had survived. In fact, it had emerged stronger than ever. What neither of them knew was that their greatest chapter was still ahead, a chapter that would transform Daniel's dreams into reality and lead them toward a future more beautiful than either could imagine. The cheers seemed to echo through entire marketplace. For several moments, nobody could stop smiling. Daniel and Sophia stood in the center of the crowd, holding each other tightly as traders, customers, and vendors celebrated around them. The tension that had gripped the market all day had finally broken. Love had won. Not wealth, not status, not pride. Love. Sophia wiped tears from her eyes as she looked at Daniel. Even after everything that had happened, he was still there, still holding her hand, still looking at her with the same warmth that had made her fall in love with him. Daniel smiled softly. "You cry a lot." Sophia laughed through her tears. "This is your fault." "My fault?" "Yes. You keep making emotional speeches." The crowd laughed. Even Mama Grace wiped away a few tears while pretending not to. Daniel shook his head. "You're impossible." Sophia smiled. "And you love me anyway." Daniel laughed. "I really do." The crowd erupted into another round of applause. Several traders whistled loudly, others cheered. One customer shouted, "Kiss her already." The marketplace exploded with laughter. Sophia covered her face in embarrassment. Daniel groaned. "You people are never going to let us live this down." Mama Grace folded her arms. "Absolutely not." The older woman smiled proudly. "We've invested months into this relationship." More laughter followed. The mood was lighter than it had ever been. For the first time since arriving at the market, Sophia felt completely free. No disguise, no lies, no secrets, just the truth. Daniel looked toward the luxurious Rolls-Royce still parked nearby. Then he looked back at Sophia. A smile slowly appeared on his face. "So?" Sophia raised an eyebrow. "So, you really arrived in that car?" The crowd laughed again. Sophia nodded. "Yes." Daniel shook his head. "I'm still trying to process this." Sophia smiled. "I know." A fruit vendor shouted from nearby. "Take her for a ride, Daniel." The crowd cheered. Sophia laughed. Daniel pretended to think about it. Then he looked at her. "Actually, I would like a ride." The crowd erupted once more. Sophia grinned. "Well then." She extended her hand dramatically. "Would you care to join me?" Daniel bowed playfully. "It would be my honor." The marketplace exploded with applause. Moments later, Sophia and Daniel walked hand in hand toward the Rolls-Royce. The crowd followed closely behind. Nobody wanted to miss what happened next. The driver opened the rear door. Daniel paused. He stared at the luxurious interior. Then he laughed. "This car is nicer than every apartment I've ever lived in combined." Sophia couldn't stop laughing. "Get in." Daniel obeyed. The crowd cheered as Sophia joined him inside. Before the door closed, Mama Grace called out loudly, "Don't forget us when you're rich." Everyone burst into laughter. Daniel smiled. Too late, the door closed. Moments later, the Rolls-Royce slowly pulled away from the market. For the first time since they met, Daniel saw the city from Sophia's world. The experience felt surreal. He stared through the windows in amazement. Sophia watched him nervously. "What are you thinking?" Daniel smiled. Honestly, I still can't believe any of this is real." Sophia squeezed his hand. "It is." Daniel looked at her. Then he laughed softly. "I fell in love with a homeless woman." Sophia groaned. Daniel continued. "And somehow she turned into a billionaire." Sophia laughed despite herself. "It sounds ridiculous when you say it that way." "Because it is ridiculous." For several minutes they simply enjoyed being together. The city passed outside the windows. Neither wanted the moment to end. Eventually the Rolls-Royce arrived at the Johnson mansion. As the gates opened, Daniel's jaw dropped. The property seemed enormous. Beautiful gardens stretched across the grounds. Elegant fountains sparkled beneath the sunlight. The mansion itself looked like something from a movie. Daniel stared in complete disbelief. Sophia suddenly felt nervous. "What do you think?" Daniel remained silent for several seconds. Then he finally spoke. "I think I seriously underestimated you." Sophia burst into laughter. The driver opened the door. Daniel stepped out slowly. Everything felt unreal. Servants greeted Sophia respectfully. Luxury cars lined the driveway. The mansion towered above them. Yet somehow the most unbelievable part wasn't the wealth. It was the fact that Sophia remained exactly the same. She still smiled the same way. Still laughed the same way. Still had the same heart. Nothing important had changed. Inside the mansion, Daniel finally met Sophia's parents properly. Richard Johnson greeted him warmly. Evelyn hugged Sophia immediately. Both had been eagerly waiting for news. When they learned Daniel had forgiven her, relief filled their faces. That evening, they shared dinner together. At first, Daniel felt intimidated. The dining room alone was larger than some houses. But Richard quickly put him at ease. To Daniel's surprise, Sophia's father asked more questions about his food stall than about business. By the end of the evening, they were laughing together. As Daniel prepared to leave, Richard stopped him. "I owe you something." Daniel looked confused. "What?" The billionaire smiled. "You reminded my daughter what real love looks like." Daniel glanced toward Sophia. She smiled softly. Richard continued, "And for that, I'll always be grateful." The words meant more than Daniel expected. Several weeks passed. Life slowly settled into a new routine. Sophia no longer needed a disguise. She visited the market openly. At first, the traders treated her differently. Many seemed intimidated by her wealth. Others acted nervous around her. Sophia hated it. So, she made an effort to remain exactly the same person she had always been. She still sat with Mama Grace. She still chatted with vendors. She still helped customers whenever possible. Eventually, people relaxed. The market once again felt like home. Meanwhile, Daniel continued operating his food stall. Despite dating a billionaire heiress, he refused to stop working. That determination only made Sophia admire him more. One afternoon, several months later, Daniel was serving customers when Sophia arrived. She seemed unusually excited. "What happened?" Daniel asked. Sophia smiled. "My father wants to meet you." Daniel laughed. "I met him already." "No," she grinned. "About your restaurant." Daniel froze. His restaurant. The dream he had spoken about so many times. The dream he never thought would happen. Sophia explained everything. After hearing about Daniel's ambition, Richard Johnson had offered to help secure a location and provide business guidance, not as a gift, as an investment, because he believed in Daniel. At first, Daniel hesitated. Pride made him uncomfortable accepting help, but Sophia reminded him of something important. Opportunity wasn't weakness. What mattered was what he did with it. Several months later, construction began. The entire market celebrated. Many traders volunteered to help. Customers spread the word. Even Mama Grace insisted on visiting the site every week. Slowly, Daniel's dream became reality. The grand opening attracted enormous attention. The restaurant was beautiful, elegant, yet welcoming, exactly the kind of place Daniel had always imagined. A large crowd gathered outside. Many of the market traders arrived early. They wanted front-row seats. After all, they had witnessed the entire journey, from a small food stall to one of the city's most promising restaurants. Daniel stood before the crowd with tears in his eyes. "I couldn't have done this alone." His gaze found Sophia. The audience immediately cheered. Sophia blushed. Daniel smiled. "She believed in me before anyone else." More applause followed. Then he looked toward Mama Grace. "And she never stopped encouraging us." The crowd erupted again. The older woman pretended not to cry, failed completely. The restaurant became a massive success. Customers loved the food. Business grew quickly. Within a year, Daniel employed dozens of people. The young man who once struggled to survive now owned one of the most respected restaurants in the city. But success never changed him. He remained humble, kind, generous, exactly as Sophia remembered from the day they first met. Then came the moment everyone had been waiting for, the wedding. The ceremony was held in a beautiful garden surrounded by flowers. Friends and family filled every seat. Many of the market traders attended. Mama Grace sat proudly in the front row. As Sophia walked down the aisle, Daniel couldn't take his eyes off her. She looked breathtaking, but more importantly, she looked happy. Truly happy. When they finally stood together at the altar, memories flooded their minds. The food stall, the conversations, the laughter, the tears, the revelation, the forgiveness. Every step had led them here. The officiant smiled. "Do you take this woman to be your wife?" Daniel's answer came immediately. "I do." The crowd laughed. Apparently, He had been waiting a long time to say those words. Then the question turned to Sophia. She smiled through tears. I do. The crowd erupted into applause. Moments later, Daniel and Sophia shared their first kiss as husband and wife. Cheers rose through the garden, warm and joyful beneath the glowing lights. Mama Grace cried openly, and this time, no one laughed at her. They were crying too. As the celebration continued into the night, Daniel and Sophia slipped away for one quiet moment beneath the stars, just like they had done months earlier on the hill, overlooking the city. Sophia rested her head against his shoulder. Do you ever think about that first day? She asked softly. Daniel smiled. The day I gave you food? Sophia nodded. He laughed quietly. Best investment I ever made. Sophia laughed too, then looked up at him. What did we learn from all this? Daniel thought for a moment before answering. That money can buy many things. Houses, Sophia said. Cars, he added. Businesses. Daniel squeezed her hand. But it can't buy love. Sophia smiled. No, it can't. Together, they looked back at the celebration, where friends, family, and market traders laughed beneath the lights. The life they had built was not founded on wealth, status, or secrets. It began with kindness, with compassion, with one simple meal offered to a stranger who seemed to have nothing. That meal changed everything, and as Daniel and Sophia stood beneath the stars, they knew the truth with complete certainty. True love had been worth every sacrifice. In the end, they found something more valuable than all the money in the world. They found each other.